So that is a huge advantage. It's like you can't do that from going from renting to your third house.
Right.
That just doesn't happen. So getting on that ladder is super important, and really not worrying too much about that first house.
All right, so about 12 years ago, one of the top agents in Middle Tennessee, Nashville area, moved all the way from Ireland, became a real estate agent, and we've got him here in the studio today, Mr. Andrew Dickert. So we're
Hello.
going to talk all about how your story. Good to see you, man. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So Andrew came to the U.S., I guess in 2012. Is that
No, so actually I got into
2005
real estate in 2012,
2005.
right as I was turning 30. But I'd moved to the States in 2004 when I was 22. Did the whole bartending thing, did waiting tables, etc. I moved to a place called Galena, Illinois. Population 2,500 people, tiny little place, but it's like a far suburb of Chicago. So people go out there for the vacationing and kind of like a Gatlinburg, in the hills. Tiny little town. There was a place called the Irish Cottage Hotel.
Okay.
And I worked there. My mom's cousin owned that place. And it was a seasonal thing. It was like, oh, I'll do this for the summer and then I'll head back home,
Okay.
Met a girl, moved into the city, ran out of money. And my dad actually lives in Nashville. So I came down to kind of see him again and then just never left. So that was 2005 when I hit Nashville. I worked in a place called Mafiosa's. You might be familiar with. Was rocking back in the day.
Yeah, it was.
And just super, super busy. So that's kind of where I got my taste for high volume.
Right.
And, did that for 8 years, 7, 8 years. And a couple of my regulars there were John and Christy Blackwell.
Okay.
So I've worked for Blackwell Realty ever since. And I would come in, sling them some Guinness on a Sunday and got to know them, became friends with them. And John had asked me, I think it was 3 times. He's like, he's starting his own company. He started to need real help. Saw me running around taking 30 tables and just with a smile on my face, maybe some Guinness in my belly. But that was kind of how it started. And he asked me a couple times. I was like, I thought I was making really good money at MAFS,
Yeah.
What I thought was good money, cash in hand. But in reality, it was like, no, I really need to broaden my horizons, and kind of took the jump with him.
Mm-hmm.
So that was 2012. Yeah.
So what'd that look like for you? I mean, there's people out there that, they, especially when it was easier just a few years ago, they jumped in, they were bartending.
Yeah.
You kind of got in when it wasn't necessarily that easy, but you've stuck with it obviously all this time. Here we are in 2024.
Yeah.
So what was it like for you to make that transition?
Oh, it was difficult. I could barely drive. I got my driver's license when I was 27.
Oh, wow.
I was turning 30 when I got into real estate, so I didn't know my way around.
You just didn't drive in Ireland? Is that what it was?
No, never. It was so expensive to drive there, and there's just trains and buses for everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, Chicago's the same way. Mm-hmm. So when I moved down here, my wife kind of drove me around, and then I finally got my license. Then we started having kids, etc. But when I was in real estate, starting from just going back and fro from Mafiosa's to my house and whatnot, it really just broadened my mental map of, where you are in the world. Mm-hmm. But I had none of that, and smartphones didn't exist. So I had to go get an actual GPS from, Best Buy and all that, and just kind of roll with it. So that was fun, and a little daunting in the beginning. But no, getting into real estate in the beginning in 2012, it was after the crash. So I'd noticed that I was really selling just a lot of HUD homes, a lot of home path homes, a lot of foreclosures. So that's kind of how I cut my teeth. I was basically a foreclosure expert. Okay. And those things were a little bit rough to sell in the beginning. Yeah. People got really good deals though, Yeah. I have a lot of clients now that are still my clients. That bought their houses for $80,000 or $120,000. They're worth 3 and 4 now. So, spent a lot of time in Laverne.
Yeah, I was going to say, was it a lot? Is outlying? So, it was more surrounding Davidson, or was a little bit of mixture of both?
Well, in the beginning, I was in Wilson County in Lebanon.
Yeah.
So I kind of
that's where Blackwell's based, correct?
Yes, that's the kind of the mothership. That was the first office. Then we opened in East Nashville, and I'm over there most of the time, and then Carthage, and then actually we just opened in Chattanooga as well. So, So that's fun. It's always fun to go to Chattanooga, have an excuse.
Yeah,
You know,
it's great.
yeah,
It's great.
love that town. So that was kind of the beginning of it. Was just because I knew how to push that paperwork through.
Mhm.
Foreclosure paperwork is a bit difficult. They are quite difficult to deal with. The other agent on the other side's not going to help. They just have so much, you know, in their catalog.
Mhm.
You have to really drive that ship. So that's kind of how I cut my teeth. But I will say the first year of real estate was an absolute nightmare. It
Uh,
was really difficult.
it's supposed to be that way, though, right? Isn't it
Yeah,
usually like that? Were you prepared for that? Did you go into it thinking what was your mindset going into? Were you thinking like this is going to take a certain amount of time?
I think in the very beginning, I thought, okay, I'm going to sit here and things are going to come to me,
Yeah.
like I'm an employee or something.
Hmm.
And that I was righted on that path very quickly. It's like, no, you have to go out, get it for yourself.
Hmm.
And I think John Blackwell, the owner of the company, I was on his team in the beginning, so that was very helpful because I had people to bounce ideas off of, and then work some of his leads. But a lot of stuff I just kind of have to get out there and bring in myself.
Hmm.
And he tells the story that like, oh, I was about to get fired, and then I brought a contract in. He's like, oh, I'll give him another week, and then another one, and that's when my
Wow.
mind shifted, where it was like, okay, I got to bring this in and be responsible for my own future. And there was a lot of growth in that period.
Right. So how were you getting those deals? Those first couple of contracts that where you were just about to get fired?
Yeah.
And so what sort of marketing were you doing, or how
Well,
are you grabbing these clients?
in the beginning, John had been doing this for years and years and years. And that's all referral business, but we
Mhm.
were also buying leads, Realtor.com, Zillow, a couple different places that we had experimented with. So that was kind of my specialty in the beginning, was just pulling in leads
Yeah.
and getting in front of them. So, my advice for new agents is like, I've been through all that. So, I have good advice for them on how to kind of structure that and what it really looks like.
Mhm.
But it does involve working 7 days a week, and it works, you might be at dinner with your family and you're going to answer that phone,
Mhm.
luckily now things are a lot different. I'm 100% referral.
Mhm.
So things are a little bit more relaxed that way. Got my life back a little bit, but it's still 7 days a week. You know,
Mhm.
it's pretty hardcore.
Do you have some teammates? Do you have
No,
support or
I've
anything?
built teams before. My wife is licensed also, so she's kind of like a report, support structure for me.
Mhm.
She does all my newsletters, that kind of thing. Super tedious stuff that I just don't have the mind for.
Yeah.
So I send out newsletters once a month, but no, she's just basically there if I can't be two places at once.
Okay.
Yeah. But I have built teams before, didn't really suit me. I thought about that, have 4 or 5 people and do 50-50 or whatever the
Mhm.
structure is. And
Mhm.
I like the lone wolf thing. I like to kind of have my schedule, and it can be grueling at times and it can be laid back at times. So
Right. Right.
I like having that rather than just super structured and 8 a.m. at the office every day.
So you just recently went back for the holidays to see your family in
Yeah.
Ireland, right? And so
Hmm.
what was it like for you to be able to break away? I mean, I know it's usually a slower time,
Hmm.
for real estate in the winter, but
Yeah.
what was it like? Was it difficult to break away?
It was. If you want to sell a house, go on vacation.
Yeah.
You will get extremely busy on your way to vacation. I
Yeah.
mean, that's just how it is. I learned that very early on. But no, this trip we had planned it for about a year. It's a good time to go to Ireland because nobody works.
Mhm.
If this, I think I had people going back to work like on the 6th or 7th. So they're all the way through the holidays. Everyone's just off. And in fact, I think it was on the 29th, we went to the pub just for like lunch and tea,
Mhm.
and the place was packed, full
Right.
of kids, everybody. I was like, is people not back at work already?
Right.
Not at all. But no, it was a challenge to be able to do that. But at the same time, my phone was always on.
Yeah.
I was talking to clients. I put everything on under contract and had everything sorted before I left because I don't want
Okay.
to leave people hanging. But it was also an advantage that 2 p.m. in Ireland is 8 a.m. here.
All right.
So I could have a full day and then at 2 p.m. have
Yeah.
all my drafts and then just send. Let people know what's up.
Right.
So, but people are actually very understanding about it.
Right. So were you like, do you miss it? That's what I was
Ireland.
thinking. Yeah. And
I
when you go
mean, it's
back, were
home.
you like, were you thinking like, do you ever think like, man, I kind of miss this? Because I
No,
think a lot of you don't. Okay.
no,
No.
no. Every time I go back, I'm like, I can't wait to get back to AC and
Yeah.
large bedrooms and
Okay.
walk-in closets and all that kind of thing. But no, I mean, it is home. It'll always be home. And, even my dad actually just retired and moved back last year. So all my family are there. All my, friends that I grew up with are
So your
there.
dad was here and then
Hmm.
he moved back. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it is home, but like, my family is my home and I put my roots in Nashville. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that's where I'll stay for
Wow.
sure.
Well, great. So tell me about, what you do. It's a stressful job. So how do you
Yeah.
manage stress, things like that? Stress, anxiety,
Oh,
it's a lot of that, right? It's kind of
yeah.
comes along with the territory and
I,
it's not for the mentally
you probably know yourself. I mean,
yeah.
eventually you start getting used to the amount of pressure
Mhm.
that's on you. And then you're like maybe hungry for more. So
Mhm.
I definitely at some point, like I was saying, the first year was absolute nightmare. But I think that was I was let, just kind of figure things out myself.
Yeah.
Even though I was on a team, it was like, all right, you can learn this the hard way and you won't do it twice kind of thing.
Right.
So going in blind is hard, but I've just luckily have so much experience now. I've done so many deals that you kind of know what to expect. So the pressure's a little less and
Mhm.
the stress is still there, but
What do you
I
do to manage it? What do you
the
do?
gym.
You go to the gym.
Yeah.
Lifting heavy weights is a big thing
It
scientifically for men.
absolutely changed my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, never been happier. Got into the gym 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago. Go 6 days a week. That's
Men and women. Did I say just men? Did I say men? Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
I mean, for people.
I was there for a year, and my wife was like, "Shut up about the gym," because you tell people,
Yeah.
and it's not ragging them on. You're just actually
Mhm.
just sharing something that changed your life or made you super happy.
Yeah.
It's like a brain hack. So now she's there 7 days a week. She's more hardcore than me, but both of us just never been happier. That's kind of my office every morning.
Mhm.
So I shut off my phone at 8
Mhm.
p.m. I may, talk to some people after that time. Usually I'm asleep though.
Mhm.
But before I go to sleep, I just put in a bunch of drafts in my phone and have all the things I'm going to say to people ready for the morning. When
Mhm.
I hit the gym, I just press send and then I just take those
Ah,
calls all day.
okay.
So it's all prepared
How
and
many of those do you do when you do those drafts?
oh
You set them up in a text?
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. It can be like 30
That's
at
great.
night.
And what would something like that say? What's an
Well,
example?
some of them are just a reminder to myself, do this for this person.
Okay.
Another thing might just be, hey, I needed to say this to somebody. I'm not going to say it to them at 8 p.m. I don't want to
Right.
hear from
Right.
anybody at 8 p.m.
Right.
And that's not a good time to solve problems anyway.
Sure.
Um, so there's just a few of those different things, but usually it's either a mental note to myself, get these tasks done for this person. And it keeps them in my mind, If you're dealing with 30, 40 people at the same time, you have to have some sort of system. And
Right.
that's the way I do it. But yeah, that's a lot of it is, hey, check out this house. Hey, I think I found some. Give me a call about
Mhm.
this one, that kind of thing.
Really interesting. I like that. It's a very cool hack, guys.
Yeah,
I guess you can call it a hack. That's a great tool.
it's handy because you can go to sleep, put your thumb in your mouth, and not worry about what you
Mhm.
haven't done.
Right.
And I'm very task oriented, so I like to write a list in the morning and have these tasks that I need to
Mhm.
achieve that day, and I don't stop till it's done.
Mhm.
And some of them lead to two more tasks, but that's where the drafts come in.
Right. Right.
So just to keep, I try to keep top of mind, obviously, with clients.
So, what are you thinking about this market as we move into 2024?
I'm excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you see happening? What are you seeing out there?
People sat in their hands for a year.
Mhm.
Even if I think I listed 4 houses when I came back from Ireland that weekend,
Mhm.
because everyone was ready to go.
Yeah.
Tired of sitting on their hands. They know that these rates are going to drop a little
Mhm.
bit over the year. We're not in a really bad situation as far as rates historically anyway.
Mhm.
We're starting to see the sixes. We're
Mhm.
going to see the fives, I think, and that's going to just ignite the fire.
Yeah.
You know, um, so the reason I was saying I listed those houses as I got back, it was really hard to run comps on them
Mhm.
because the comps wasn't enough.
Yeah.
Like, because the last year the 3%ers are not selling.
Right.
You're not seeing refis at all, as I'm sure you know. So I think that it's just like it's coiled up.
Yeah.
It's ready to bounce.
Pent up demand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if we talk about this on the show, but this year is more millennials are aging up to age 33 than ever in history. And that age is very, very important because that is the prime age at which they buy. So if you just look at a bar graph, you'll see 33 is at the highest across all years.
It's the largest demographic of buyers ever. Ever to
and they're
exist,
all sort of and I think originally, the idea was wait till rates come down. And plus there was just no inventory. There is nothing there. And so we call them the crash bros, but there was, this whole contingency of people that, saying, even prominent people that had, big podcasts, Patrick Bet David, was saying, hey, it's going to crash. Kiyosaki, these different people. But then, have Dave Ramsey saying, no, it's, this is the best time over the next 5 years to buy a home is now. And the reason why is because, this low inventory, when rates come down, if prices didn't drop when rates were 8%, what's going to happen then when rates go to 5.75
exactly
or 5.5? I mean, prices are going to go up because there's just more people are going to enter the market, and there's not going to be enough people. Some people are going to sell their home, but it's not going to be able to meet the demand because there's so much pent up demand. I think that's really what the story is, and what the message should be is to be able to get to the people, the listeners, the people that are potentially going to buy a home. What are the numbers? Like how many people will enter the market when rates go to X? And there's all kinds of data out there on that. And, if rates go down to 5%, there's something like 14 million people total that would enter the market.
Yeah.
And I mean, we have less than 1 million homes on the market now in the entire country. And we need about 4 million to 5 million. And so we're way under inventoried. And so the idea is that just we need some checks and balances, and it's unfortunate, and I hate to tell because for younger people, they're trying to buy, some of them have just been either priced out of the market or priced out of where they wanted to buy, and so it's almost like they have to reset their expectations. Right?
Absolutely.
Are you having those conversations a good bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's kind of been the trick here. Like the last year, there's a lot of new construction.
Yeah.
That's still going on. We're fortunate enough in Nashville to have a lot of demand. A lot of people want to move here for whatever reasons, but we have a lot of jobs here as well.
Yeah.
But so we're not the way that the wave goes up and down kind of affects outside of our state a little bit more than larger cities and then Nashville. So we have it's a bit of a blessing there, but at the same time, people are looking at, I try to advise first-time home buyers that they're just looking to get on the ladder. Don't try to buy the perfect home. It doesn't exist anyway. But really what you're doing is you're trying to get on here, and at the moment, it's kind of like rates arbitrage. It's like, watch these rates come down and your equity go up.
Right.
And right now, if something's been sitting for a while, you can actually get a deal.
Right.
Closing costs.
Right.
Repairs.
Right.
Like there was 2 years there where you didn't even say those words.
Didn't exist.
And that was rough. That was like a coaching session for 2 years straight. I just had to wipe the tears and like help people keep going. We could be 19, 20 deals before they pick something up. That's really discouraging. All those guys are laughing now.
Yeah.
But now the trick is, like Dave Ramsey's talked about, is like these prices didn't come down.
Yeah.
And, there are some deals. There was kind of some drags on the market, new construction and homes that need work.
Right.
If you can get a house that needs work and you're capable of doing that, that's a great deal.
Right.
Add that sweat equity, bring that value up. But we're going to see that as the rates go down, that equity go up. We may see multiple offers again.
Right.
That's what drove our market to almost double since 2019. So
it's really uncanny. It really is. And I think you tell me, but what we're seeing is, I mean, we're really in this sort of I think this sweet spot, this short period of time where right now, which kind of started after in December when rates started to come down,
Hmm.
but prices are still coming down a little bit. So this is normally you wouldn't have that, but we're in this time where you can get a good deal and rates are slightly better
Yeah.
to where because you got up to nearly 8.5%, and we're like 2 points, we're 200 basis points below what we were at the peak
Yeah.
in late 2023. So what we're having a lot of conversations about is, we're in this sort of short time period where you can actually get a better deal than what you could 6 months ago
Hmm.
and a better rate.
Yeah.
And the reason why it's a short window, we would say, is because as rates continue to go down, what's going to happen is you're going to have more people enter the market more and more, and that's going to cause sellers to be more stingy with their
Yeah.
price. They're going to raise their price because if you have 10 offers on your home that's listed versus one or
Hmm.
two, well, you can be more selective with, the price you're going to market at, right? And if you're going to come down, so I think they're going to get closer. They're going to start getting closer to list price because there was a while there. I mean, people, they were getting close to list or, I mean, obviously above oftentimes. And now,
Yeah.
there's been a several, 2023, you're able to maybe get a little bit less than list price sometimes, and I think you're you're
For
you're
sure.
seeing that even more right now as we film this, as we shoot. We're in January 2024, and I think we're just in this little window. Who knows how long it's going to? Is it going to be 60 days, 90 days? But I mean, every expert out there that's seeing these kinds of markets are going to say that we're going to. What's going to happen is the rates going to come down, and then prices are going to see them going back up.
Yeah. I mean, it's all about sentiment. So
Mhm.
sentiment follows the market, but um, you know, I think it's always a little bit behind.
Mhm.
So I think buyers need to take advantage of that now. It back in the day, it'd take 3 months to sell a house,
Yeah.
and that was normal. And there was a lot of
Yeah.
competition, and you
Yeah.
might have to stage it, need to paint those patches, that kind of thing. And then we had this, actually a good amount of years leading up to, especially places like East Nashville,
Right.
et cetera, just building up and building up to that that rate environment when things were 3%. It was just put a sign in the yard.
Right.
It was so easy to sell a house and so hard to buy a house for a buyer. That was discouraging. Now, those sellers are sitting on the market for 2, 3 months
Mhm.
and they're getting discouraged. And that's what you take advantage of.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, if something's been sitting that while, they're going to negotiate with you
Right.
and they're gonna want to try to make something work. And buyers need to see that. Take the rate thing off the table. You can refi later,
Right.
but just get the asset.
Yeah. It's
You
the
know?
number one wealth builder for the Americans. I mean,
Mhm.
for it is buying real estate. And it's so important to understand, to know, because it's just going to get more and more difficult, unfortunately. We talk about we're becoming a renter's nation at some point. I don't like the sound of that. But the reality is it is more and more expensive. And I think people that think, okay, well, that was a $300,000 home
Mhm.
and that's really all that it's ever going to be. It's going to come back down to that. There's definitely people out there. I mean, I have people that comment on social media that are strangers, but that's what they'll say, and it's unfortunate because they're waiting for what really a crash, and
Yeah.
there's just no data to support that. There's just all this demand,
Mhm.
and yes, we're going into a recession if we're not one already. There's going to be layoffs, but foreclosures are still at all-time lows.
Yeah.
And there's not going to be enough foreclosures to meet any sort of demand that we had. I mean, 2008 caused by an industry, a subprime industry that really vaporized. It really just went away.
Yeah.
So we don't have those risky loans. It's harder to get a loan now than it's ever been. I mean, they put all these checks and balances back in, got rid of all this riffraff of loans where literally you could get 100% financing with under in a score under 600 in the 500s, and it was an ARM, it was an adjustable rate mortgage.
Yeah.
Sometimes it was fixed for 2 years, and then it had maybe sometimes some of these lenders were selling a 3-year prepay with that.
Mm.
They were painted in a corner, and so I've never seen The Big Short, but I lived
I just
through it.
watched that a couple
Yeah,
weeks
I
ago
lived it. So
just to remind myself.
yeah. I mean, thankfully for me, it was some of the best years that I had, but I was just well positioned.
Mhm.
And but on the investment side, I mean, I think everybody sort of took a hit. There was just, if you were buying at the top, and it was frothy, you got stung. But the thing about it that's different now is there's just no inventory. I mean, back then you had like 5, 6, 7 million homes on the market, and they just don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
And that's the huge difference, I
No,
think.
I
So
think that whole environment will change when obviously the demand is there, low inventory, but as we see things start popping off with multiple offers again, or just people fighting over with the rates coming down, everyone wanting the same house, other people will start listing then, and I
mhm,
think it will balance out at the end of the year,
yeah,
and then we may just go into more of a level playing field.
yeah,
But right now, I mean, a buyer has a good advantage, you know.
yeah,
Um, Sellers, yeah, it is pretty level, I guess. I mean, because of the low inventory, if you list something and it's move-in ready, that's another thing too, though. This new generation of buyers now, they want move-in ready.
yeah,
They don't want to have to do a project. I'll talk someone into a project if they have the skills to do it because there's just so much equity you can create.
mhm,
But now they do want it move-in ready. Like you can't, like those 2 years that were crazy, you can't just list a house but it's on the yard.
right,
You do
right,
have to make it look good,
mhm,
take professional pictures, etc. So, and advertise it well.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, that new generation is like, I think I have my first Gen Z buyer right now.
Oh, really? It's different.
They know what they want.
They know what they
It
want.
might not exist, but they know what they want. It's a
Yeah,
challenge. You got to educate everybody.
it really is.
And sometimes it takes showing them the houses.
Right.
And the no's lead to a yes. But everybody gets educated on the market when they beat the street.
I think that's the thing, man, is that sometimes, potential buyers and any of us in our lifetime have to learn the lesson just by being in the market. Like,
Hmm.
okay, I missed that and it's not coming back. And so
Yeah.
I have to just focus on the now and what is likely to happen. And the reality is that real estate has always gone up over time. I mean, I think the record is like 77 and 3, or 77 and 8, something crazy, just like 90 percentile of properties going up versus going down in 1 year over the last like 80 years. And it's just,
Yeah.
that this, you can't really find an investment that's like that. So creating wealth for people, if you can just focus on the payment, and get in the home. I mean, now you know this because you started out there in some of those outlying areas like Wilson County to talk about. But there's
Yeah.
USDA, which is a great loan for people that can,
Mhm.
do a zero down. Maybe you get into a home because when you buy a home, you've got all these things that you got to put up front. You've got like earnest money and appraisal, inspection, and now they call it trust money, earnest money.
Mhm.
But you've got all these upfront costs, and people they don't necessarily think of that. But if you can get 100% financing, maybe a down payment assistance or a USDA, which is rural development's another way to say it, U.S.
Yeah.
Department Housing, U.S.
We did a lot of those deals
Yeah,
when that came out.
U.S. Department of Agriculture. So it's just an outlying area. It doesn't necessarily have to be completely out in the boonies. It's sometimes an entire neighborhood is deemed USDA eligible.
Yeah, you can
There's
be
income
in the city,
restrictions.
like Springfield, for example.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, there's a lot of places that are rural because those loans did so well
yeah,
in Tennessee that
yeah.
they kind of expanded the map. So, yeah,
And they're not a huge part of the market, but like if that's what's keeping you, from getting into the market, it's worth exploring, for
yeah.
people. And um,
Well, I mean, look at rent.
yeah, and get the seller to pay the closing
It's
costs. Now you might go to the closing and
Mhm.
have zero out of pocket, and
Yeah,
maybe get money back
money
because
back. Yeah,
yeah. So that's the key. I think some people just feel so discouraged because okay, it's hard to save. I need to save 20% or I need to save 15% or 10%. And that's not necessarily the case.
Mhm.
Um, you know, because the idea is like I like the analogy you use is kind of grab hold of the ladder. You want to get on one of the rungs
Yeah,
because once you are, now you're in the game And,
And I want to sell their house in 2 years.
Yeah. We may sell it in 2 to 5 years. And then
I'm putting you on
the next one.
the Andrew Dicker plan here.
Right.
And, I've done that for a lot of friends or a lot of younger people and first-time home buyers where they're on their third home now.
Yeah.
And, they've upped it each time and they become a little pickier each time because they can. So that is a huge advantage. It's like, you can't do that from going from renting to your third house.
Right.
That just doesn't happen. So getting on that ladder is super important and really not worrying too much about that first house.
Yeah. I think just geographically too, I mean, the further you're going out, it's just easier for them to get into the market, right? I mean,
yeah,
everyone wants to live. I mean, I'll never forget, I had someone comment like, hey, I can't buy this where I live, it's too expensive. I'm giving up. I mean, he lived in La Jolla. So it's like, San Diego. And it's like, well, dude, you may have to consider moving somewhere outside of La Jolla for
drive
your first
till you
home.
qualify. Essentially.
So I think that's, no one wants to drive too far. There's a happy medium, but I think that's consideration for some people is to figure out what is the area that I can be comfortable living. Like now, even Columbia is like, I don't know if you've been lately, but
just sold one in Columbia.
It's amazing out there.
It's great.
It's just completely changed for
my
those
son's
of us.
best friend. We sold his mom a house out there.
Yeah.
So now we have to kind of collect them every now and again so they can have a sleepover. But so that's kind of hard. But no, it's beautiful out there.
And you can get more home is the reason why I bring that up because you get more home for the value for the money in Columbia versus Spring Hill or Franklin. As you move towards into town. So
yeah, Spring Hill blown up.
Yeah.
I think the last one I sold out there was probably 2015. It's been a minute. That was a Home Path Fannie Mae foreclosure that they got for it's weird how you remember these things. 132?
Yeah. Something
like that. They're sitting pretty.
Yeah.
I actually contact them every now and again, just be like, you ready to sell that thing? And they're like, no, because they're having kids. And, it's such an incredible deal. They probably refied by now, I'd say, but maybe not.
Any good stories like...
Well, you'd mentioned
U2 sightings or Bono sightings or band members.
I actually have met Bono. We were at a rave.
You've met him. This is amazing.
Sort of kind of met him. We were at a rave on Killiney Beach, he's on the top of Killiney Hills, his house.
Okay.
And we were down there doing our thing. And then close to midnight, we went up the road to get more beer and cigarettes and whatnot to the gas station. And a limo came by. And of course, there's probably 20 of us. So we're like shaking the limo, like, who's in there? And the window pops down and it's Bono. And we're like, oh my God, Bono, you got to come down to the rave, like sing for us, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, no, like just got off tour. And we left him at his thing. And about 2 hours later, 200 pizzas were delivered down to the rave.
Oh, that's amazing. That's awesome.
So that was pretty cool.
That is cool.
He's definitely a man of the people,
Yeah.
And then I've also heard that he uses public transport and regular taxis. He doesn't get chauffeured around, but I don't know how true that is. He was in a limo when I saw him. So
his kids all got interesting names. You've seen this, I guess.
No.
Yeah, actually. They're really odd. Yeah. You should look it up sometime.
My son's name is Vegas, so I can't talk.
Even more so.
Vegas and Roxy.
I think one of his kids has 5 or 6, 7 to 8 names or something like that. It's
really?
So long. Yeah, and they're pretty out there. But I'm a big Bono fan.
I think there was a big controversy. His daughter was in some Dublin drama, and she was acting working class.
Yeah.
And nobody was having it. They were like, how dare you? So
I just love that they've been married. He and Allie have been married for so long. I don't know. It's got to be almost 40 years now, I suppose. And that's just so unusual in that industry.
Yeah.
And they've all had really long relationships at some point. But I think he and Allie are the ones that have just sort of stood the test of time. But that was a great story.
Yeah. There you go.
All right.
Is it true? Maybe.
Well, man, how do people contact you? They want to work with you. What's the best way?
So my cell phone is always on, of course. You can find me on social media. I'm not super active on Instagram or anything like that. Maybe I'm a boomer. I don't know. But Facebook, Google, all my Google reviews are on there. If you Google Andrew Dicker, I'm kind of everywhere,
Okay.
I have some presence online, I suppose. And then, like I was saying earlier, I'm 100% referral. So I do get people that come in that just find me online. But most of my business has been people I've worked with before, or their friends, or their family, or their
Mhm.
granny, or their cousins. That's kind of how it wasn't like that in the beginning.
Yeah.
It is now. So I was probably spending 50 to 60,000 a year on leads in the beginning.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was worth it. It really built a business.
That's great.
But no, you can find me online
Great.
for
Great.
sure.
Thanks for coming on, brother. Good to
Thank you
see you.
very much.
Yeah, thank
I
you.
appreciate
All
it.
right, guys. We'll see you next time.